Thank you very much for joining us today. We have Caitlin. I like that I just started this right as you took a little sip of water. You're
Sorry.
welcome. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for
Thanks.
joining us.
Yeah.
We have known each other for, oh gosh, how long is it now? 8 years?
Probably close. Yeah. I think so.
We met through past guest Camille.
Mhm.
She was working at a bookstore, and so was Caitlin. And it has worked out great because Caitlin's a great person.
Yeah, that was fun.
Mhm.
I miss that. The
Yeah, and
simpler
since
times.
then we both moved to onto bigger and better things. And now
Mhm.
here you are, you're saving lives. It's
Mhm.
great.
Yep. Yep. No, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm not. OBGYN is a little like, well, it depends, I guess. I'm not like in the ED or in an ICU or anything like that. So
I
on a
mean,
scale of things, probably
babies
a
are
little bit
still
less.
being born. Lives still need to
That is
be
true.
saved. So yeah.
Mhm.
How did
Mhm.
you like I'm always interested because I have a couple people who are who have been in med school and and turned into doctors. And I'm always interested into how people kind of pick their specialization because as I understand it, and I could be totally wrong, it's your education in the medical field starts more broad, and
Mhm.
it's great that that happens because you're kind of given everything, and then I know that you kind of go through every single thing and you figure out what you like. So how did this speak to you?
Um, yeah, so I mean, I think you often hear like people say like people will be like really set on something and will change their minds like completely like one or more times during med school. I think the reason why is because it's hard to there's a difference between like if you're studying a subject. So usually the way that most like medical schools do it is the first 2 years is mostly the like didactics, like learning like academically, like in a like typical fashion, the background knowledge you need, and then the third and fourth year are the clinical rotation, so you're actually like hands-on learning. And it's really different, just the topics in an academic sense versus what it's like to like be working in that field. So I think people will find things that like I really like. I mean, I did neuroscience as an undergrad, so I really liked, and I still find like the content of neurology really interesting, but the day-to-day practice of it like less interesting to me. And so like I thought maybe I'd be interested in neurology. I mean, in neurology, and then I really didn't. Not that I like disliked OBGYN, but I wasn't really considering it until I did my rotation, and then I was like, oh, this is awesome, and I really liked like everything about it. And I mean, and like in terms of why I like specifically chose OBGYN, probably it has to do with the fact that there's like a surgical component, which is what I'm like kind of narrowing in on within OBGYN, which I like never would have thought I was interested in. Like I didn't, no one in my family really is. I mean, my dad's father was an anesthesiologist, but I didn't really know him. So like I'm not, I didn't grow up around doctors. Like there are a lot of people who are in med school who grew up around doctors, so they like kind of know a little bit more about like practical parts of being a doctor than I did. And I was assuming that I would like not at all be interested in surgery. I think like part of that is because people like because of the kind of stereotypes of the surgical field, which can be true. But like OBGYN as a niche of within surgery is a lot less of that, like that the I don't know, like a polite way to say it, but like just basically the like surgical fields in general are where it's like where like the holdout of the like old school like doctor mentality is in terms of just like the way that people treat each other in the field, essentially not necessarily how they treat their patients, but how they are amongst each other and amongst their coworkers. And so that was just like less appealing to me, but it turns out that I really like doing surgery and I really like working with women. And I a big part of like OBGYN is kind of like is like necessarily has aspects of like advocacy and that sort of thing that I really like too, and just feeling like you're providing a service, because in general, like women's health is kind of undervalued, I think, compared to other things, you know. So yeah, so that's probably what drew me to it initially. And I also just had the like benefit of having a really good experience with a specific doctor who I'm attending, who I've like now applying to be in a fellow, like I'm going to be applying to fellowship next month in her subspecialty. So I don't know. Yeah, that's what
Wow.
got me there.
That is like so cool and so fascinating. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there's a lot of stereotypes about what happens like with doctors on TV, and you know, I don't want to make you speak to the validity or or anything about that, but yeah, it is. Ellie, gosh, Ellie, super active today. She's normally sleeps the whole time, and not right now. I don't know. I think that's really cool. It does kind of like tie into what I wanted to say about one of the things that I really love and appreciate about you, which is my segment called Pass the Cheese. You are this person and you have this light that really makes me always think of Gandalf the White, where you're like so nice and you just like want to do what's best for everyone, and you're also super knowledgeable about stuff. So it's not Gandalf the Gray, but it's like Gandalf the White when he has like formed and become this like bigger and like more powerful person. Yeah, and I don't know, like you're just always somebody that has just been such a delight and a wonderful person to be around. And I know that we don't talk as much as we used to, and you know, it's unfortunate because I always love talking to you, but you never change, like in good ways, you know, like the things that are so great about you, you never change. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I know. I think like probably one of the things that I really wish I was better at is keeping in touch with people. And I don't know why, but it's always been it's been difficult for me. I think I have a hard time like imagining like what about my life, or like what I would like say if I like, you know, if I talk to people. Like I don't know. It doesn't occur to me necessarily that someone who I don't like see on a day-to-day basis would be interested in like what's going on with my day-to-day life. Like it's even like even with my boyfriend, some like it's or my fiance. It's like it was like yeah, like you know, part of his like one of the things that like it was like took a while to develop was like a pattern of like just like telling him what's up with my life when I'm not seeing him day to day. So because it's just like, you know, why would like, and still like I'm much more likely to like talk about things that relate more directly to like what he does than anything else. But yeah, I wish I was that. My mom is really good at keeping in touch with people like over phone and email, and I wish I was better at that. Yeah.
Well, I definitely think it's something, you know, most people, I think a lot of people feel the same way. I think that especially right now, you know, we've all kind of realized like, oh, maybe I don't quite, like, I'm not quite as good as something that I thought I was. But what's also really interesting is, I've thought about this for a while. Like, you had friends in high school, and you know, sometimes you wonder, like, were we just friends because we saw each other every single day and we sat next to each other, or like, were we really friends? You know,
Right.
and obviously, like, we have answers to some of those questions, and you know,
Right.
sometimes we don't know. Um, but yeah, I will say, like, for me personally, because uh, keeping in touch with people is a strong suit of mine. And also I'm not working, so I have all the time in the world to to keep in touch with people. But like specifically pandemic related, for my friends like you who are in the healthcare field, you have other things to worry about than texting me, you know? So like I have been trying to figure out like the best way to just be like, hey, like I'm thinking of you, like, you know, I support you, like, you know, I'm here to talk if you need to, but also if this is like all you need, you know, like that's enough. And I will say that also kind of actually like extends to like everybody, because we are all just trying to make it through the day, and just like if
Right.
waking up is all you can do one day, like that's okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I don't want people to feel like too bad if they take 3 days to like to text me back or whatever.
Right. But I have to say though that like I really appreciate. I think that you've reached out like maybe like 2 or 3 times to just say like, "Hi, I'm thinking of you," which is so nice.
Oh,
It's so like lovely to hear from someone who's just like hello, other human being.
yeah.
That it's like not anything like specific necessarily, but yeah, it's really nice. And I mean, it is actually I think like one of the things like my fiance like it really bothers him, and I hadn't really noticed it more until recently, but it is really hard with especially with my friends who are in the medical field. Like you would think with like texting and stuff that like we have such a benefit of like easy quick communication, but it's really hard to I don't know how to like it's hard to take any time like you're like in when you're like at the hospital or whatever, and you're like you have to like fully focus in on what you're doing. It's like really difficult to take any time out of that to like say. I mean, it like totally depends. Obviously, different people are in different situations, but a lot of like what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and what my fiance is doing on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to like there's like not a lot of time to take a mental break from that. Like there's no like you don't get like a lunch break or anything where you can like be focusing on something else completely. And sometimes it's hard to switch your mind out of that to just be like, let me like answer, even if it's just like like someone being like, hey, can you like hang out on Friday? And your mind's like, okay, well, I have to like think about this. It's just like I can't right now. Like
Yeah.
it's so and it really bothers him because like it's an easy, quick question, like why can't they respond? But then on the other hand, I have totally been in that situation often where I'm just like I can't even think about like what it would take to like make sure whether or not I can do something on Friday. So
Right.
like I can't, and then like you get home and you're exhausted, and then it like slides down your list of texts, and then it like disappears, and it's the worst. And I always feel so terrible, but I don't know,
Well,
man.
yeah, it's you know, it's all hard, like trying to stay mentally healthy and like and also yeah, like totally focused on what you're doing. Obviously for some people it's a little bit more uh life concerning, I don't know, than others.
I mean, I don't know. People are like not great at multitasking.
Mhm.
And that like on like small and broad levels, I think is hard. If you get like in the zone with something, it could be hard to like switch your attention to something else.
Well,
So,
also like everything that we have to accomplish in a day to day, like we were not ever supposed to accomplish those things.
right, right.
Like humans weren't necessarily built for that.
Yeah,
And like there are even things like the 40-day work week was adapted for people that were working in assembly lines to make cars, and that doesn't apply to a lot of people anymore, and we
right.
haven't really changed out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so there's a lot of things that can use improvement and revamp.
Agree. Yeah.
But I did kind of want to go back to like, you saying like nothing I do is like interesting enough to tell people. I have worked very hard over the last few years to never ask a question that I like don't want to hear the answer to. And part of that is also like, of course I want to hear what my friend is doing. Even if it's just that they are making toast, I want to hear about that, like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
asking for a reason. But also like the other part of it is like, are you my best friend? Like if I don't want
Right.
to hear one
Yeah.
of the answers, I won't ask it.
Yeah.
But that's been something that's been really interesting, like living in the Midwest, is because a lot of people like are uncomfortable with certain answers, and I like just want to tell people like you can tell me no, or you can tell me something
Right.
that is maybe not positive. Like I'm asking because I want to know, and I'm also
Right.
okay with what the answer could be.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I know. I think also like it's just, I think women especially have a harder time saying no to things. And like or isn't it's not always it's not I don't think often it's not like people, I mean people in general, like I'll say yes to things that are like and it's not because it's not like a lot. Like, it's not that I really am thinking at that time that I'm like, oh, this is never gonna happen. It's just that like you're just like wanting to please and be helpful, and then you try to do the thing that you said you can do. And you're like, wow, this is like a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, or like you didn't think through like what was gonna be involved, and that is, that's tough. Because of course, like I would, if I could just make everyone happy all the time, well, that would be my ideal. But like,
It has been really interesting, like especially in this pandemic, because I feel like a lot more people, and good are taking into account like their own mental health and like
mm-hmm.
and what is too much for them. And so I think a lot of people are now like reevaluating like things that they wouldn't have really like thought twice about. Ellie really wants this cheese. This
Yes,
is
she
really
does.
good. She keeps like clawing at my legs. Anyway, like a couple weeks ago, I had plans with somebody on Friday and then 2 things on Saturday. And that's like the most that I have done in weeks, months kind of thing. And then on
Right.
Sunday, I was exhausted. I was like,
Yeah.
I did 3 things over 2 days and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And, like some of us would do 4 things in one day, before this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really been interesting. And I mean, I do think that I hope that people will have like healthier changes for themselves, for that kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
maybe where they were kind of burning the candle at both ends, they will no longer do that. Yeah, it's we're all learning a lot of stuff about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you want to segue into our next segment called Whine About It? Do you have anything in particular that you would like to whine about?
I so probably like so many things, but nothing, I don't know. Nothing particular at this exact moment.
That's okay. That's okay. It can change. I definitely have had some people who are like, oh yeah, I came prepared. I want to whine about this. But yeah, that's okay. I don't know if I guess we like kind of whined about some other stuff. Something I kind of want to ask you, and I realize it's not necessarily, you don't speak for everybody, but if, as we are about to go into the second and potentially third wave, is there anything that people can do to help healthcare workers directly other than staying home, washing your hands, like wearing a mask?
Other than not getting COVID.
Like, is it helpful to buy breakfast from a local restaurant, for healthcare workers? Is it helpful to sponsor coffee? Is it helpful to just sign and send thank you cards? Is there anything that, you can kind of think of? And
I'm trying to think in in the spring, there were like a few times where we had like meals from different organizations. That was really nice. I mean, it is just nice in general to like know that people are, like thinking about you. We had the medical students, because especially in like last spring when things were like less developed, like they just were like trying, a lot of them were just like trying to find things to do that were useful. So like there was a group of med students who made masks for us, and that was really nice. And each of them had like a little like note, from one of the people that made it, and it was just like, it was like really, really brief, but it was that type of thing I thought was really nice. Just like, because I think probably a lot of people feel like, I mean, not that this is specific to healthcare workers, but I think a lot of people, like one of the difficult things about this is just like people feeling really isolated. And I think a lot of healthcare workers kind of feel like they're just like, like trying to like, you feel like you're like trying to like kind of work against something alone, and that's not at all true, clearly. But I think it's always nice to hear that someone's thinking about you or cares, even in a non-specific sense, but just that there are people who like care about, about the people who are working in the
Well-being.
pandemic. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, it's also really like, it's funny sometimes, like when we get information from like the hospital system in terms of well-being and stuff. I find that, I mean, it's really easy to be cynical in general, I think, in healthcare, but like it's so funny to like listen to or hear about the things that they're like doing to like try to like help us, but then you're like, well, like if you really wanted to help us, you would, do, something else. But anyways, it's, at least they're, trying or whatever. But
Yeah, I think of this often because this happened at a place that I worked, and morale was low, and they were trying to boost morale, and they're like, well, we've brought in donuts twice. Like, I
right,
don't understand. And you're like,
yeah,
yeah, like,
right,
that's nice. Donuts are great. Don't get me wrong. But
right,
if you want to know what would boost my morale, talk to
yeah,
me about what would
right,
boost my morale. And
exactly,
it's also funny, like talking to those people of like, well, I don't understand.
yeah,
I gave you donuts.
right.
What?
What else do you need? Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
lots of things. Yeah.
I was driving and I saw this like really interesting sign, which just goes to show like where we are at in our life. And it was like, uh, drive sober, save ICU beds for COVID. It's
Mhm.
like, here we are.
Right. Yeah.
Here we are.
Exactly.
This is what we're at. So yeah, we're kind of at the end of our time. Is there anything that you want to bring awareness to? Is there anything that you want to like promote or, anything like that?
I guess probably like right now what's at the top of my mind is the vaccine situation, because well, I did participate in the Pfizer trial at my hospital. So I got what is actually hopefully a placebo, because I also later had to have my antibodies tested for a different thing and they were negative. So I'm really hoping I got the placebo, because if I didn't, then I didn't make antibodies for the vaccine, which would be unfortunate. But so I'm trying, so like I'm waiting to hear on Monday if we're going to get the vaccine for the trial or if I have to wait till I can get it through the hospital. So all I can say is that like every healthcare worker I've talked to has been like literally like, give me a chance to get the vaccine, I'll take it. Like no one I've talked to has any concerns. And I really hope that people will accept the vaccine, because it's like kind of disheartening to hear people who are like saying like, and I can understand people's like wariness in terms of how fast it was created, but I think it's not that anyone has cut any corners in the science, it's that corners have been cut in bureaucracy that's allowed it, and funding, like basically like all of the things that are like time limiting and vaccine creation, which are like bureaucracy and having the money to do things, were just like completely smashed aside, which just goes to show you like what we can do if we are like put our minds to something as a society. So, I hope that people will, accept the vaccine, because it's really the only thing that's going to allow us to come out of this safely, is if enough people are vaccinated, that everyone's protected, and we can go back to our lives in that situation. And it might be that we find out that like the vaccine's going to need to be like a yearly thing or every 2 years thing, like the flu or something like that. And we don't know what the like actual endpoints are, but that's my like one like cause or thing I would want to say is like, please deeply consider your community when you're thinking about whether or not you'll get the vaccine. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great reminder that with this, your decisions don't just affect you.
mm-hmm.
There is a network of people that are indirectly related to you, and then each of those people have a network indirectly related to them. So you might think that this choice is only for me, but it's not. I did want to say thank you to healthcare workers. both on the ones that are doctors, nurses, the administration staff, you know, everyone kind of in between, janitors, you know, people who are cleaning up, people who are helping, you know, kind of in every way, because, you know, we are all in this together, and a lot of people are putting a lot of things on the line, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't, like, I doesn't feel like I'm having to sacrifice much, honestly, but there are a lot of people who are doing a lot more in terms of their families and that sort of thing. And I've been lucky that it hasn't really been that much of a change for me, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's but I think it's safe to say that you're sacrificing other things in other ways. So I think it's easy to think of like, oh, well, these 3 things are happening and that doesn't affect me. So like, oh, it's fine. But I know that you're sacrificing other things. So
Okay.
thank you very much. We really appreciate
Yeah.
everything that you shared with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.